Okay, so pulling everyone back together, and without further ado, here's Mary Teegee to present her report back to community.
Good morning, Denise Skize. I'm honored to be here to report to you at our annual General Assembly. First of all, as our law dictates, I would like to acknowledge and thank the Lheidli T'enneh for allowing us on their territory. My name is Mary Teegee. I'm Gixon and Carrier. I am Takla. I come from the Lachkibu clan, from the House of Nagyep. My chief's name is Mausham Gabu, which is White Wolf. I'm the executive director for Carrier Sekani Family Services for Child and Family Services. So it's really an honor to be able to present to you with my amazing team. So I'll just tell you some of the programs that are underneath me. Oh my, where's the clicker? Can you click for me? So the next slide, this slide. So these are the pillars of Child and Family Services. You'll see underneath me I have jurisdiction, led by Director Stephanie Cohnfald. Child and Family Preservation, that's Cheryl Thomas. Community Prevention Services, again Cheryl. Youth Services, Amy Rowe, Merritt, Bone. Guardianship and Resources, Sonia, and more recently Early Childhood Development, and I have Jason as Director of Community Development. So those are our programs. Underneath those programs we have so many services. They'll be talking to you about them. This is my next slide. These are, again, all the people that are my direct reports. We have about 360 staff, right, total at CSFS, and I think almost over half of those are in my department. So I'm going to, just so that you don't get sick of my voice, I'm already tired of my own voice, but I'm gonna allow my directors to talk about their programs, and they're each gonna take about 2 minutes. Okay, our programs and services, starting with Dawn.
Good morning, everyone. So I've got 2 minutes. I will try not to talk so fast. So I'm Dawn Pearson, for those of you who don't know me. I was under Health before. Recently I've just come under Mary, as she mentioned. So some of the programs we have under the Early Childhood Development is the Children's Oral Health Initiative, which is a dental program. The Hodle Bio Head Start in Vanderhoof, our Early Years Preschool, Aboriginal Support Child Development, Maternal Child Health, Best Beginnings Outreach Program, Middle Years Program, and the Canadian Prenatal Nutrition Program. So some of the things we offer, and when I say some of the things, I only had 3 slides, so I had to condense this as much as I can. So this is the Coles version of some of the things we offer. So we have childcare, the Yankee Dene camps, which we ran this summer. We do developmental screenings, we have speech pathology, occupational therapy, physiotherapy. We offer pre- and postnatal services and supports. We do community kitchens. A lot of you may know about our virtual community kitchens. We're going to be focusing on trying to get back in person now that we can. We offer one-on-one supports for children with developmental needs, equine therapy, which is new to us this year. Working with community to help enhance services for children, advocacy, culturally relevant programs, offer parenting programs. We have some areas where we have toy lending libraries and dental varnishings and screenings. So some of the current projects that we're working on right now is we've received funding to have a daycare in Prince George. It will not be called the Prince George Daycare. We don't have a name yet. We will have a better name. So we've secured that funding. We're working on getting that piece of land secured, and then we will start breaking ground and building that. So I'm super excited about that. We're also working with Burns Lake Band on bringing the daycare and the Head Start under the direction of Carrier Sekani Family Services. And we're looking for opportunities to be able to have a doula program, because this is something that our member nations and families have said, like, we would really like to have those services. So we're looking into opportunities of how we can incorporate that into our maternal child health. And increasing our capacity, our Head Start capacity, and other childcare opportunities to be able to support more families. As many of you know, those of you who have children, childcare is a huge issue in our province. We don't have enough of it. If any of you are interested, or if you know of anybody that's interested in working in the early childhood development field, please send them my way. There's tons of education opportunities, and we would love to have them come and take the program. And the other, lastly, is seeking out more opportunities to expand the Children's Oral Health Initiative program to more areas in our nations. And I think I was even under 2 minutes.
Hello, good morning. My name is Amy Merritt. I'm Director of Practice for Youth Services. My office is based in Prince George on Lheidli First Nations territory, and I'd like to acknowledge them for having us on their land today. At Youth Services, we've grown exponentially over 2 years when I was last at the AGA. And this is really thanks to the prevention funding that we've secured now through Indigenous Services Canada. We provide service to youth aged 8 all the way up to 29 years old. We have buildings in Prince George, so that's Skyzaya. We have another building in Prince George, New Hiskak Habibe, and that's for 18 and under programming. We have a youth center in Vanderhoof named Sio, and that was named after we had a contest with Sycas First Nation, and the entry was My House. And then in Burns Lake, we're currently renting space from Burns Lake Band as we work towards developing our co-location with the health department and Foundry. So what we do at Youth Services, so we provide one-to-one services with our youth and young adults, and we provide group work as well. So we have life skills, advocacy, housing opportunities, employment opportunities, but our youth centers, so at Skyzaya, we really do serve the most vulnerable young people who we often see on the streets of Prince George. We serve them with a safe place to stay, a safe place to rest, to do laundry, to eat, to shower, to access hygiene supplies, and then hopefully we work with them over the evolution of their needs and their wellness journey up to housing and employment. I think it's important to note that although we've all been faced with the pandemic over the last 2 years, our people on the streets have been faced with 2 pandemics, and the opioid crisis has been far more impactful to that population than the pandemic ever was. And we continue to face those challenges and the realities and try and support those people every single day. And this is our Burns Lake team. So they're sort of the newest addition to the Youth Services Department. We currently have our manager, supervisor, and 2 youth care workers, and we're all working really closely with our surrounding member nations. It's great to see people more regularly now. In the last 6 months, I feel like I've been out in community more than I have in the last 2 years, and it feels so good to see everyone. I feel less nervous standing up here talking today because I have seen you all in person more regularly. And I really look forward to, meeting with you all again in person and continuing to grow our youth services program. We started off with, I think, 4 staff, and we now have 50 staff in our department. So it's been huge, huge growth. And I'd like to acknowledge Marion Warner and the board who really supported us. We signed our lease for Skyzaya Youth Center a month before the pandemic hit and all the social restrictions and working from home started to take place. But we forged forward with the development of this resource. We recognized that people were already so underserved and undervalued during the pandemic, and we did not want to just be another service that closed our doors or restricted our hours, and we just blossomed. And Gavin Jansen, who you heard in the video, he speaks about us becoming family, and I truly think it's because we all worked so closely together during such an unusual time for all of us, and we just became so close so quickly. And so, you know, for the team who's watching, I truly, truly appreciate your hard work and dedication and the strength that you showed and the compassion and the enthusiasm that you bring to your role with youth services every day. Masai. Oh, yes. One more thing. And so we just received news that Skyzaya Youth Centre has received a Provincial Solicitor General Award for Crime Prevention, and we will be receiving that award with Mary, Warner, and myself and a couple of our management staff next week in Vancouver. So really feels good to receive that and be sort of acknowledged for the progressive and innovative work that this group of people has done. So, Masai.
Good morning. My name's Sonia Rowland. I'm the Director of Practice for Guardianship and Resources, and I also work with the Family Preservation Program in Vancouver. Happy to be here. The Resource Program is a provincially legislated program. The role of the Resource Program is to recruit and open caregiver homes and out-of-care providers, and then we provide ongoing support and training and workshops to our caregivers as well. We recognize that the Safe Home Study tool, it's a licensed provincial tool that we need to use, but it doesn't work for many people. So we are advocating to change those tools to better meet the needs of families that would like to be options for children who are looking for alternative, or that need alternative care. Right now, we're also focusing on, we know there's a housing shortage across BC, and it's very hard for young people that don't have personal references when they're looking for housing, and because they're young, nobody wants to rent to them. So we're working in collaboration with BC Housing and some of our other Indigenous community partners to develop 21 and 2-bedroom housing units for young people between the ages of 19 and 27 in Prince George. And so we're just in the early stages of that, but hoping to have that ready to go within the next year. So here are some of our goals listed. Our hope is always to open more homes in community and for children to live with relatives and with their siblings. Again, as I mentioned, we're advocating to change the assessment tools that we currently need to use in BC. And again, focusing on that housing program starting in Prince George. We know there's a need as well in other locations as well, but we're starting sort of this piloting in Prince George first. So Guardianship is another provincially legislated program. The guardianship workers work with children in care. They also work with families, children, nation reps to plan for children and to try and work together. This year we began the Roots program. So the Roots worker, we have one in Prince George and one in Vancouver. Their role is to create family trees and genograms, work with families, and to ensure that children have those connections to family and community and land. This year, we have received ISK funding for post-majority services, so this is a really new program to us. So we won't have young people aging out of care. They'll be able to continue to work with a worker if they want until the age of 27. We're finding that most young people are wanting to stay connected. So the services we offer within that are advocacy, and then we can support living costs such as housing, any of the day-to-day costs, and then post-secondary. So we have a number of young people attending Emily Carr in Vancouver, culinary school, so different programming we can fund as well. So I included some stats. So I started with Caris County in 2008, and at that time there were 86 children in care. This year, there are 58 children in care with Carries Canny. In 2008, we weren't offering any post-majority services. We didn't have any funding at that time for it. We now are supporting 22 young people between the ages of 19 to 27 with post-secondary services. And then our goals for this year are again to try to reunite children with family if they're not living in a family care home or with relatives, to continue to assess options with family every 6 months, to support youth with post-majority service agreements, to continue to look at expansion of that Roots program, which I think is working quite well, and then to continue to work on, Mary's working on expanding guardianship responsibility to children in temporary care from member nations. So the other program I work with is the Vancouver Prevention Program. So within that program, it's really an extension of the family preservation programs that Cheryl runs in Prince George, Vanderhoof, and Burns Lake. And it includes advocacy for families who are involved with MCFD and families in crisis. We also have a Roots worker there that assists with connecting children in care with families, creating family trees and genograms. So the Vancouver team has established monthly community events. The most recent ones have happened at Trout Lake in Vancouver. We provide courtesy support. So sometimes members, if they're going down to Vancouver for medical appointments, or we can provide an extension of the services in the north to the families living in Vancouver. We also support young people who are formerly in care in Vancouver to navigate systems and to stay connected to Carries Canny. And, oh, sorry, now on to Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Thomas. I am the Director of Practice for Prevention Services. So I want to have a quick chat about the prevention services teams and the programs that we provide. Family preservation is offered in Prince George. Rhonda Hurry is the service manager here. In Fort St. James and Vanderhoof, and Davina Volk is the lead there, and in Burns Lake. And Joan Conlon takes the lead in that area. So our Family Empowerment Program is a program that allows children in care to have direct contact with their parents. This program offered over 14,000 hours of direct service hours the past fiscal year, which meant that children were able to visit with their parents, grandparents, or extended families for 14,000 hours to ensure that connection and to maintain our cultural connection with their grandparents and their communities. Our Family Preservation Outreach Program is our housing program, and Pat Kuhn is the manager of that program. He currently has a coordinator and an outreach worker working with him in Prince George, and Pat and Joan are working on to establish that program in the Burns Lake area. And then we are going to work with Davina to ensure that we offer that program in the Vanderhoof Fort St. James area as well. Our Calls to Justice program, that's MMIWG. This program is new to me and is now going to be with Julie Dahm in the Justice program. And it works with the Highway of Tears governing body. We have a couple of big projects on the go. We have a Pillars project. We're going to have a ceremonial pillar here in Prince George and one in Prince Rupert. We're going to have a ceremony when we get the pillars completed. And we are currently have a vacancy in that position, and we're looking to hire a coordinator to ensure that that program moves forward. Bridging to Employment is an employment readiness program. It's offered here in Prince George and also in Burns Lake, but the Burns Lake program is on hold due to lack of staffing. Samantha Wartek has been the coordinator for this program in Prince George for what seems like forever, and she does an amazing job getting adults at risk to enhance their portfolio to be able to make it in the job sector. And she is working on the post-majority piece, the curriculum to add to the post-majority portfolio. And that's Jason. Thanks, everyone. Oh yeah, no, that's it. I was gonna say something.
Good morning. My name is Jason Morgan. My hereditary name is Ambakan. I just wanted to acknowledge I'm Gitsan, but our family is kind of going through a rediscovery in our lineage. Just wanted to acknowledge that my grandmother was adopted into our Gitsan communities from Niska. So it's a new process for me and just learning more about our family lineage. So, but today I wanted to talk about our Department of Community Development. And so one of the things that we do as a team is to look at working with the nations on really developing strategies on how to look at strengthening our communities, supporting the planning process, and trying to work with the nations on how they define prevention. We utilize a strength-based model of the Touchstones of Hope as a mechanism to kind of look at engaging the membership and identifying what are some of the challenges and issues, and then developing strategies to work with the nations on the work that they're doing. So there are kind of 5 key outcomes that we try to achieve within community development. One is to really, a lot of my time is working with the nations on the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal Capital Order 41. And it's really looking at supporting the communities that want to take advantage of the opportunities now, whether it be purchasing vehicles for to support their prevention programs, buses, modulars, as well with infrastructure, whether it be youth centers or cultural camps. So me and my team really work closely with the nations on trying to look at working with them on the criteria that they need to develop. As well, part of it is also looking at where we can actually provide support as we navigate through those application processes. The second thing is looking at having to support the communities on capacity building and the direct funded community service delivery agreements that we have with each of the nations for prevention funding. And it's trying to earmark capacity building and mentorship, and also providing supports for them at the nation level. Part of it is, having the communities really develop strategies of keeping children in the community. And as well, culture being at the premise of the work that we do. So just kind of I just wanted to kind of just touch upon 2 other departments. And so one of the new departments that we created was language and culture. And this is done by Geraldine Thomas Fleur. And so part of the new work that she's going to be doing is working on developing a strategy with all the communities, looking at the engagement processes that we need to look at. How do we look at supporting language and culture at the communities level? The other piece is that the community wellness teams, this program is going to be transferred over to Cheryl Thomas very shortly, but it will be supported both by Stephanie's team under jurisdiction and my team for some of the administrative supports. And so it's just an ability for us to look at reinvigorating the training capacity needs that we need to provide our communities for community wellness teams. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'm under 2 minutes.
Thank you, my amazing team. I'm going to be doing the jurisdiction report for Stephanie. Stephanie Cohnfall came, and how long have you been with me now? A year? 18 months Just seems like you just got here. But she came with really a wealth of experience working with Cowichan tribes, with MCFD, and is really one of the foremost policy people, I would say, in the province when it comes to child and family service policies, and knows the act like the back of her hand, and we need people like that to help us develop. You need to know what the problems are in order to come up with a good solution, and she definitely knows that, so I really, really commend her and her team. Before actually I move on, if some of my staff that are in the audience, if you could stand up and just so people know who you are. We have Davina Loy, I was going to say Teegee. Davina Volk. She's a manager out in Fort St. James. She does family preservation. I have Elizabeth, my senior policy. I have Eugene and Cindy Lowley back there. They're working with the jurisdiction team and bringing that cultural knowledge to the forefront. So thank you for being here and supporting us. Oh, I also have Barbie, who's been a rock with us for years and years and years, and she does all our cultural elders advisors, but she's really not an elder. Like, I think she's just our little Barbie doll. And she can never, ever retire. So with the jurisdiction framework, and again, we're so excited. We have a lot of community engagement that's coming down. We have some of the dates already established. You've listened to Dr. Napoleon and some of the stories, but I really wanted everybody to understand that we have been working for this day since we started over 30, how many years? 32? 33 years. So we started 33 years ago on this journey to get to where we're at today, this jurisdiction. So the jurisdiction framework, I must say, when I developed it, it was about 6 years ago. And we have in the audience the esteemed Dr. Stephen Cornell, who provided the nation building discussion yesterday. Dr. Stephen Cornell, actually, I invited to Carriacou County Tribal Council when I first started as the first female negotiator in the province. And I looked at what was happening to our communities and saw this Harvard project and saw what they were doing, so I invited him up. A lot of stop and starts, but he finally came up. But what he did, the way that he talked about nation building always stayed in my mind and resonated, and I must attribute lots of my work to nation building. I think that everything we've done at Carriacou County Family Services has been by design. You've heard me talk about this. Everything we've done has been strategic to get us to the place to realize our vision. So part of that work, of course, realizing our vision is to be self-determining in child and family services, and how do we do that? We needed a framework. And there's certain tenets and certain principles and values that we know build strong nations. And one of those is that we need to ensure that the political interference there's a role for everybody. Chief and council has a role. Our hereditary chiefs have a role. And so when you look at this jurisdiction framework, you'll see at the very top is Indigenous communities. That's where our laws will come from, our ancestors, all the teachings, all the stories that we have. It comes from the community, it comes from our people. From there, we'll be developing our act. We are already in the process of developing that act, that legislation. Carriacou County Child and Family Wellbeing Act, we don't know what we're going to call it yet. And I got to say a funny story. When I was asking my mother a while ago, I said, Mom, like, what were the laws to take care of, what were the child and family laws? And my mom looks at me and she says, why do the children need laws? They didn't do anything wrong. So, but she talked about how the laws that we had was to protect the child, like the whole family, the whole person. And so when we have to think about that when we're looking at a child and family law, that we can't have it siloed within a Western construct, that actually our laws need to reflect who we are as a people, as a nation. And everything that we do, we know as a nation, everything we do as a people really centers on the well-being of the tribe, which means that the well-being of the child. So we have to think about all those Indigenous principles. And we were lucky and fortunate enough to have a real forward thinker, a visionary that worked with us for years, and that, of course, was the late Perry Shawana. And again, a lot of this work influenced by him. So one of the things that we talked about is that everybody has a role, and we talked about the importance of leadership yesterday in nation building. Again, how do we do that? One thing we know that chief and council, there'll be like an election every 3 years or 2 years or some places 4 years. But once you're hereditary chief, you will die a hereditary chief. and that name stands the test of time. And those obligations and the responsibilities stand the test of time. So our Huanini Council is comprised of hereditary chiefs and family leaders, and they would be like the Senate, if you will. They are keepers of our law. We then have an accountability framework, and this is based on wellness outcome and indicators. The Huanini Council will also oversee dispute resolution when it comes to fiscal and administrative, not practice, fiscal and administrative pieces. That is their role. The accountability framework is so important. When we define jurisdiction, the simplest definition, you hear me say it again and again, is our ability to make decisions. So how are we going to make good, sound decisions? Well, we need an accountability framework. We need to know how well our children are doing. So that's why we're working with the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy out of the University of Ottawa to develop those outcomes and indicators. They're already developed, but what we're going to be engaging in the next 6 months to a year is actually to ensure that those well-being outcomes and indicators are truly reflective of our nations. And that's how we make the decisions. The Huanini Council will say, oh, look, this is what's happening. The rates of children in care have gone down. There's been an increase in teenage pregnancies, whatever. They can make decisions as to what needs to happen. They're also keepers of the law. They're put in their rightful place. That's what hereditary chiefs did. We kept the laws. We kept order. Then underneath that is the administrative governance body, much like the way that CSFS is now comprised with the board of directors and the chief and councils appoint that. That's what that body is. Remember, chief and council, elected chief and council, their roles in community is that they are the administrators of funding, Indigenous service funding, many different funding pots amongst 1,000,001 things that they do. But that's what their role has to be very clear in this model. So the administrative governance will make those fiscal decisions. And so funding right now goes to Carrie Sicani, Family Services, it goes to the communities to do collaborative work, and it goes directly to the First Nations so that they could build capacity in their communities. We also have the, how we make decisions is through the community wellness team, and that is where jurisdiction is on the ground. That is the most important role there because it's the community that's making the decisions for their children. Always, always remember, we've always had the inherent right to take care of our children. What we haven't had are the resources to breathe life into our own laws until now. So the community wellness team, and they will make the recommendations to the Carrie County Family Services Authority. Next. Okay, so we have the evaluation and audits, and you'll see just a quick snapshot. We have the community wellness teams that make the recommendations to the Carrier County Authority. If there is a dispute, if there's an issue, it would go to the Carrier County Tribunal, and then to the federal judiciary if there is still a dispute. So for example, Susie and Paul lose their children. They don't agree that the child should be placed with aunties, so they want to dispute it. So there's a tribunal. And if they're still not happy, the tribunal says, no, this is the right decision. They're still unhappy with it. They still have another layer of dispute. And that's like a federal judiciary where they make the decision based on reasonableness or unreasonableness of the decision. Is it reasonable in the scope of our law? Not outside it, but in the scope of our law. And then they will say it was a reasonable decision or an unreasonable decision where then you would have to rethink it and go back through that process. So definitely we needed that accountability. It's so funny, I look at this model and I see it's so nice and easy, but it took years to get to this place. It took arguing with many different lawyers to say, how do we do this? It took our whole team at our MBA to do this as our capstone. So it looks easy, but definitely Warner can attest to that, part of the team, to get it to this place where it's very nice and clean. So that's the jurisdictional framework. We have we know that the landscape in child and family is changing. So we really have to ensure that we are talking to the community. So over the next year and a little and on, we are going to be engaging community. Again, it was a really nice keynote to have Dr. Napoleon talking about our stories. And I know, again, how everybody's really excited in community. But just to remind you, we're not just starting it yesterday or last year. We've been doing this since CSFS first started. So all the research, that we did all those years ago to develop our family law model, for example. That was started all those years ago, and a lot of the elders and the leaders are long gone, but their words will stand the test of time. So our programs and service delivery remain founded still on our culture, our laws, our batlats, our values, and they surround the children. That's my big fish, my big ling. I challenge anybody to get a bigger one than that, and then send me a picture. So there's other things that I do as well. I'll continue with my report. I'm the president of the BC Aboriginal Child Care Society, and I'd just like to give a shout out to them because it was BC Acts that we developed the first of its kind parenting program based on Carrier Sekani laws, the Bringing Tradition Home, and I have Dawn here and Davina, who actually were able to present at an international conference. So I'm also on the Caring Society, the First Nations Caring Society. I represent BC in that. So that's the society, and AFN took Canada to court, and of course we won the CHRT. And we won that, and that's how we were able to get the funding in community prevention. We have the agreement in principle, as you heard, the big $40 billion settlement, so I negotiated that along with Cindy. And now we have post-majority to the age of 27. We never had that before at actual costs. We have prevention money that goes directly to the community, $2,500 per capita, the $283 per capita for band designate. We have won the capital at actual cost right now. We have Jordan's principal at actuals, Jordan's principal at capital at actual costs. We also have the compensation agreement. And I wouldn't be able to do all of these jobs without the support, of course, of my CEO, but also with my competent staff and my amazing staff that I know that if I'm gone, they're always there, and they're just amazing. We also have, what's really important now is some of the news that has come down around the compensation. You've heard about it on the news. The compensation piece, we are starting our hiring for staff to help your communities when the compensation comes rolling out. I mean, that's $20 billion at the very minimum. So trust me, we've already kind of thought, we've heard you. We know that people are really worried about giving people that are hurt and traumatized money. We know what happened with the Indian residential school, so we're looking at what are the best supports that the communities and our children in care, our former children in care, and our families need. Before I end, I know that I'm just about at time, so I've seen the time, and I just really wanted to take the time because I think it's important to understand where we are in context of CSFS and our history. Our theme is, blazing a trail. And basically the definition is you're making a path outdoors with markings so that somebody else can follow, and you're making it easier for other people to follow. And so first of all, how do you blaze a trail? First of all, you need to know where you're going. And we were very clear at CSFS where we're going because our elders and our ancestors, our elders and our leaders from past, learning from their ancestors that their mission, what is our mission? Again, with the guidance of our elders, Carrier Sekani Family Services is committed to the healing and empowerment of First Nations families by taking direct responsibility for health, social, and legal services for First Nations people in Carrier and Sekani territory. Very clear, our elders knew what they wanted. They wanted us to be self-determining in that because they knew who best knows how to take care of us but our own people. So that's the path, that's the vision that we had. The second step is to clear the path to get there. Identify those obstacles. What trees do we have to cut down? Well, all of it has been policies, laws, foreign laws, and not enough resources to do it. Those were the obstacles that we have to face to get to where we want to. So what do? We clear those obstacles, not only for CSFS, but for Canada. We needed, in order for our jurisdiction framework to come to life, what did we need? We needed federal enabling legislation. So what did we do? I got the proxy from my chief, I got the support from the board and from my CEO, and I went to the AFN and got the resolution passed that said we are going to co-develop with Canada and federal enabling legislation that would allow us to create our own laws. That's what we did. That's what CSFS forevermore in history will be in that. We did that so we could breathe life into our laws. We cleared that obstacle. We needed funding in our communities. I'm part of the Caring Society, again, with the support of my CEO and the board and my staff. We went to court, we took Canada to court because there wasn't enough money. There was discrimination, and we won in 2016. That obstacles of funding, that's taken out of the way. We also needed our own law model, like our own family law. We developed it without hardly any money. The very first one, the Juanini model that the late Perry Shawana, led by Travis, Warner, myself, we did that, the first of its kind anywhere. There's so many things that we became the leader in health. What were the obstacles? What path did we need to clear? We needed the ability to make our decisions, our own decisions. Our community said this, to make our own decisions in healthcare. So Warner, Mabel, Travis, all of us coming together, but Warner was on the First Nations Health Council for 11 years so that we could make our own laws in health, so we could guide that. We are now, and I'm so proud to say this, you know, having traveled across the country, we have the best primary health care anywhere. I'm not just talking on reserve, I'm talking for even non-Indigenous communities. We have over 17 specialists. We have like, how many doctors now? 13 doctors. Nowhere else. We're going to be expanding into dental. Again, we're clearing that path. We're getting the obstacles out so that we can make decisions for our children. We also have, when you think about that, how much work that we do to make it easier for others. TELUS, you hear TELUS, they have the doctor, First Nations Health Authority, their primary care, their telehealth comes from the work that we did to make it easier for them and for our other nations. In legal, again, we have obstacles. We didn't have enough mediators so that to represent our families. So what did we do? We created it. We created the first of its kind in the world, our own family law program. And to this day, the mediators that are coming out of BC, that are First Nations, have come for the most part through that program that we created at UNBC. We have our own research department. There wasn't one. So we did that. And we did the research so that we could get funding for communities because, again, funding was an obstacle. So we did the research, we partnered, and again, the first agreement of its kind where a community organization received funding through CIHR, that was us, so that other organizations throughout Canada could access funding. We also needed, what were the other things that we needed to do? We had to ensure that we were always thinking, we were always having this vision. We understood that we needed to have capacity for training. And so we have the first of its kind NVIT program, social work program, nowhere else in Canada. We have a bachelor's program. We have the youth care worker program. We have our own, we're developing so many different things that are innovative and new within health as well. One of the things that we need to ensure that when we're blazing this trail and we're making the mark that we are, the most important thing we need is people. We need manpower to clear those obstacles. And we have staff at CSFS, past board, leaders, board, current board, chiefs, hereditary chiefs, elders, and youth who have helped us clear that path. We have all the words of our ancestors that helped clear us the path to get to our vision. And why are we here? Why do we do this? We do this so we blaze a trail so that those not yet born will not have the obstacles and the impacts of residential school and colonization. We clear the path for them. We clear the path so that all of us can achieve our common vision, and that is healthy and empowered nations. And that's why we do what we do. And right now I would like to thank all of you, because you are the trailblazers. Each and every one of you in this room and our community that is watching this, you are the trailblazers at CSFS, all our nations. And we do that all together with that one vision to become one day when it is our own laws, and we throw that in front of the government and say, listen, this is how we take care of our children. This is what our elders told us to do, and this is what we're gonna do. And that, we can only do that because of the visionary and the innovation and the support of the communities. And I just would like to thank all of you, you beautiful trailblazers. Masai.
Masai Mary, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you to your team.
Yeah. And I just have one more thing, and it's from my team, and I really apologize. But I just wanted, when we're talking about trailblazers, I just really wanted to thank Carol and Mabel. Mabel, I started with you. You've taught me so much, and same as Carol. I just really want to thank you, from me and my team. We're going to miss you, and you well-deserved retirement, and I love you ladies, and you truly are visionaries and trailblazers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And because we want to value people and their questions, I'm going to open it up for just a couple of questions. So does anybody have any questions for Mary or anyone in her team?
We have a couple questions from online. So one is from Corey. Are we ready to branch off from MCFD fully yet? How close to reality of that are we realistically from this?
We're already have a draft legislation that we're going to be bringing to communities in the next few months here. And once we have our legislation, we're also going to be starting down the coordination agreement. So that's all going to happen within this year. And as soon as we get all of that, we're also building capacity in communities. So even though we still are under the MCFD Act, we do practice different. A lot different. So we have like 1 social worker to 4 children or to 8 children. We have the prevention piece. We have the capacity building. So definitely while we're under the act, we're doing the best that we can within the confines of that act. And we actually kind of blow that act up a lot of times, and we just sort of do things our own way, because if it's in the best interest of the child, somehow we'll get it done.
Thank you for that. And I don't want to, I want to let people online know that our comms team is taking questions down. And if we don't talk about, or if we don't answer your question right here on the podium, we will have a team who will answer those questions or give those questions to specific team members within CSFS to answer at a later date. So we are listening.
Thank you. Let's hear it for the Child and Family Services team. Thank you so much. Also, a reminder for the community members and those watching online is that a lot of the CSFS programs attend your health fairs with booths. So if you have further questions or you want information, you want to meet the people, please attend your health fairs and meet the CSFS teams. And then maybe you can have a conversation about what you're interested in as well.